Well, let's stay with this story. The DA caucus is meeting this morning following the dramatic resignation of Mmusi, Maimane and Athol Trollip. Their departure has left a leadership vacuum. Now, the party is seeking legal advice about what to do next. Well, DA spokesperson and the party's member of Parliament, Trollip Malatsi, joins us now from Cape Town. Mr. Malatsi, thank you very much for making the time to talk to us. You, as the DA caucus in Parliament, are meeting. What exactly is on the agenda of that meeting?
Good morning, Trollip. The Parliamentary caucus will be meeting, as is the norm, at 9:30. The caucus deals with the parliamentary program agenda. But I guess your question is related to the developments of yesterday. So with regards to the impact of yesterday's developments on the parliamentary caucus, there will be a federal executive telecon preceding the caucus. That telecon will be taking place at 9, and top of the agenda for that telecon meeting is what was in the prelude of your story, which is how we are going to navigate this constitutional vacuum that we have in the party when both the leader and the federal chairperson resign, because in terms of the current provisions, in the event that a leader resigns, the federal chairperson becomes the automatic choice. But we are in an extraordinary territory here because the federal chairperson has equally chosen to step down. So that legal advice will provide a path of the process that the party will need to take in terms of initiating the process of an interim leader, because already there is a resolution from Federal Council that we need to have an early Congress by early 2020. So we need to sort out the process in terms of who will eventually be the interim leader for the organization between now and that early Congress.
Mr. Malatsi, just on the question of the FedEx meeting that's taking place to seek legal advice, who is actually in charge of the party right now as we speak?
So in terms of the structures of organization, this is how it works. The Federal Council chairperson presides over both Federal Council and Federal Executive. Given now that we have a vacancy in the leader of the party and the federal chairperson, the Federal Council chairperson is currently overseeing that process, and that Federal Council chairperson is Helen Zille. But she's not the leader of the DA at this stage.
Mr. Malatsi, going back to the caucus meeting that's going to take place, Mmusi Maimane, so he's resigned as leader, but he has expressed an interest to stay on as leader of the party in Parliament. Is that something that the DA is comfortable with, given that he says this entity, the Democratic Alliance, that he was leading just a few days ago, does not carry the same vision where he wants to take it? Is the party comfortable being led by a person who holds such a view?
Well, I'll take I'll start from yesterday. So in the discussion that the party had yesterday during the Federal Council executive meeting, there was no lack of appetite for the leader continuing in the role, for Mmusi continuing in the role until the end of this year as parliamentary leader. But again, the discussion will continue today, again, in terms of the expression of interest that he has outlined about wanting to help the party to manage this transition well by offering to stay on as the parliamentary leader. And caucus will have an opportunity to engage the leader about, to engage with Maimane about that call, and ultimately any decision that will be taken affirming whether he continues as is his wish until the end of this year will be done both guided by the discussion that emerges in caucus and also the federal executive discussion that takes place in an hour and a half time.
I'm sorry to cut in there, but just as a final question to you, I'm really sorry about this, but
no worries,
Mr. Maimane has no transition to manage. He has decided to resign as leader of the DA. Him keeping the job in Parliament is purely about a salary issue, putting bread on the table. Surely that is embarrassing. And is there a future for people like you in this party?
Clearly, your framing of the question is wrong. There is a transition in Parliament. We need to differentiate these two things. The federal leader of the party is also the parliamentary leader in terms of the party's constitution. You asked the question, what happens in Parliament based on the statements that were said yesterday and the leaders' offer to assist the organization during this time? Because this is how it happens in terms of who becomes the parliamentary leader in the DA in the event that that person is not the federal leader. Caucus will need to have an election, and that is a scenario if the leader of the party is not a member of the parliamentary caucus. Caucus elects from amongst its members. The transition I'm referring to is exactly the period between now and the statements that were said yesterday in terms of the leader's expression to serve until the end of this year. And that is the subject of discussion that FedEx will be having at 9 o'clock today, and subsequent that, a caucus meeting that's taking place at 9:30.
DA's Solly Malatsi, he is the spokesperson of the party.